It's a shocking revelation. 24 civilians shot dead in cold blood by US Marines. American military officials are admitting off the record to the execution-style killings in Iraq 6 months ago. A Democrat congressman, himself a former Marine, says an internal investigation found they were killed not by an explosion, as first claimed, but shot by edgy soldiers. The incident occurred last November in the town of Haditha. Our Washington correspondent, Jonathan Rugman, has this report.
From the very beginning, Iraqis in the town of Haditha claimed that US Marines deliberately killed 15 unarmed civilians here last November. Men, women and children wrapped in blood-soaked robes. A child eyewitness claiming 6 members of her family, including her parents, were massacred here.
I heard explosions by the door. The Americans came into the room where my father was praying and shot him. They went to my grandmother and killed her too. I heard an explosion. They threw a grenade under my grandfather's bed.
But now it seems the worst alleged misconduct by US Marines in Iraq was even worse than previously thought. A congressman, a decorated Marine veteran himself, putting the real death toll as high as 24. Killed not by an insurgent bomb, as commanders first claimed, but shot at close range.
There was no firefight. There was no IED that killed these innocent people. Our troops overreacted because of the pressure on them, and they killed innocent civilians in cold blood.
Murtha's a controversial Washington figure, 6 months ago stunning the White House with his call for a complete US withdrawal from Iraq. Yet it's not just these pictures from an Iraqi student filmmaker which suggest this was no bomb. Military officials admitting off the record that they have photographs suggesting the Iraqis may have been executed, bodies bent over, shot dead as if in prayer. Nothing to contradict this 9-year-old survivor's claim that her attackers were out of control.
We were all crying, but the Americans were also screaming. They were shouting at my father before they killed him.
It was on this road in Iraq's western desert that a Marine was killed by insurgents earlier that day. One military source now claiming the dead trooper's comrades may have shot civilians in Haditha by way of revenge. Last month, over 4 months later, 3 officers were relieved of their command. But pending an internal inquiry, military officials won't say precisely why.
Live to Jonathan Rugman on Capitol Hill. How is this revelation playing then in the United States?
Well, the story's running in today's Wall Street Journal, of all places. It was on NBC News last night. Time magazine conducted a fine investigation a couple of months ago. But to me, this feels a bit like the Abu Ghraib scandal felt in 2004. It took a very long time to get going. It's as if the more Americans find out about what is going on in Iraq, the less they want to know, and less certain elements of the media want to tell them. This is what a Pentagon spokesman said to us a few minutes ago. An investigation is ongoing, and it would be premature to judge the outcome of that investigation. Due process has been followed. American troops are, of course, immune from prosecution in Iraq, so any justice, if it comes, will have to come within the American military justice system itself. All this, of course, very bad news for the president. Poll after poll suggesting that Iraq is the single biggest cause of his unpopularity here. And what happened in Haditha 6 months ago certainly won't help.
Jonathan Rugman in Washington.
6 months ago, U.S. Congressman John Murtha of Pennsylvania, a retired Marine, came out strongly against the Bush administration and the war in Iraq, calling for troops to come home. Today, he spoke out again. I'm joined right now by Congressman Jack Murtha of Pennsylvania. Mr. Murtha, let me ask you about this accusation that you've come out with today, that U.S. service people fighting in Iraq killed civilians in cold blood. What evidence do you have on that now?
Well, in Time magazine, 2 days after I made my statement, a Marine was killed in Haditha, the northern part of Anbar province, and they overreacted. And I pointed this out today to show the tremendous stress on these troops. The insiders have told me over and over again what had happened. They didn't tell me till the Time magazine article came out. But basically, the Time magazine article was inaccurate because it was much worse than the Time magazine article showed. They've been doing an investigation now for 3 or 4 months. This is unacceptable to me. But the big thing is the stress on these troops. They send these troops back over and over again. These troops are in combat every day. And when Karl Rove says that they're sour on the war, how about disaffected? How about the suffering that they're going through? This is not a sour thing. The public is absolutely upset about this war. Every place I go, they tell me it's outrageous the way they're handling this war. They send them in with inadequate forces. There's no weapons of mass destruction. And in the end, they send them with inadequate equipment. So this is absolutely outrageous. And then the troops, I don't excuse them, but I understand why it happens, because the pressure is tremendous. You remember a few years ago, we had 4 special forces people come back and kill their wives. Now, this kind of pressure they're under combat. And these guys have never been there. They don't understand what it's like. And when he says sour, that's ridiculous. That's understating the problem. They're trying to sanitize this war, and you can't sanitize it. And that's why I keep speaking out. I feel so strongly that these troops are what they're going through. Chris, we have lost 370 people since I spoke out November 17th. And the oil production is still below pre-war level. Electricity is below pre-war level. They have 30% have potable water, and there's 60% unemployment. Now, how can you measure progress? You know what Secretary Rumsfeld said when he went to Iraq? He said, well, you can see these television aerials. They only have 2.5 hours of electricity in Baghdad. So they might have television satellite dishes, but they don't have any electricity. So it's not gotten better. Incidents have increased from 500 a month in November to over 1,000 a month. It's just a week, 500 a week to 1,000 a week. So it's not getting better. We would have been better off redeploying then. They have no plan for success, Chris. This is the thing that I'm so disturbed about. I see no plan. They have a paper. You open it up and there's nothing in it.
Let me ask you, Mr. Murtha, to give us some details about that. Draw us a picture of what happened at Haditha.
Well, I'll tell you exactly what happened. One Marine was killed, and the Marines just said, we're going to take care. They don't know who the enemy is. The pressure was too much on them, so they went into houses and they actually killed civilians.
Was this My Lai? I mean, was this the case of, when you say cold blood, Congressman, a lot of people think you're basically saying you got some civilians sitting in a room or out in the field and they're executed just on purpose.
Exactly what
not
happened.
because the Marines are scared or anybody's scared, or the soldiers are scared.
This was not an action. This was not. At first, they tried to say it was an IED. There was no IED involved in this. This was troops who went in. They were so stressed out, they went into houses and killed children, women and children. 24 people they killed. Now this is the kind of stuff, this is the kind of stress they're under. I don't excuse it, but I understand what's happening. And the responsibility goes right to the top. This is something that should not have happened. It should have been investigated. As I understand it, they have already relieved 3 commanding officers, three officers in this whole thing. But this is the kind of stuff that stress is going to cause these kind of things. That's why I'm so upset about it.
Can you imagine standing up for the Democratic nominee for president? I know you're a party man. For the Democratic nominee for president next time around, if that person supports the war, can you imagine doing that?
No, that's not going to happen, Chris. This thing is going to evolve where you're going to see this year the Republicans demanding that these troops be withdrawn. The thing that worries me the most is they do it so slowly it'll jeopardize our troops. Right. We got to have a scheduled withdrawal, just like we have to have a schedule around here. You say you got only a few minutes. We got to have schedules in order to get things done. Hell, we wouldn't be out of here Christmas time if we didn't have a schedule. And the same things with Iraq. And the Iraqis stopped the war whenever there's an election. Sistani and the clerics said no violence during this period of time.
Well,
they got to handle this themselves.
Hillary Clinton, Congressman, we're talking like you, we'd have a more vibrant debate right now in this country. But as long as your leaders are playing it safe, and you know they are, not talking like you, they're not speaking for your party, because I can read the polls, and they're with you.